what's really going on here? You got Trump on one side, Kamala on the other. He's got to reconfigure the whatever they had planned for the Biden-Trump rematch. Kamala Harris now raising 125 million in some very short period of time, breaking records from what I understand. And she's in the middle, full stride, enjoying the honeymoon period, which is a very exciting time, I'm sure, for those on the left, cracking the champagne and fireworks and etc. going off. The thing is, though, this is just the beginning, so probably not a time to get too giddy because, as we all know, honeymoon period is only a short period of time, and then it moves into another phase, which is the one that I think will affect things more in a more impactful way. So she has been fortunate, at least in terms of her being able to chalk this up as a win. She's been fortunate enough to have the movers and shakers on the in the inner circle, the the bigwigs of her party decided they were gonna following the coup, they were gonna place her as the chosen nominee. And in the media, you may be forgiven to think she's the, as we say over here sometimes, the next best thing to sliced bread, the second coming, or she's the being crowned as the queen. And don't want to be a party pooper, take any shine off the moment. She's, I would say one thing, to be in that position, anyone who's put in that work, DEI hire or not, there's effort goes into it. So credit where credit's due. She doesn't seem to have done much for the last 3 years, but there's something I've got to say about that. Just want to say that, yeah, she's, I won't just say she was plucked out of nowhere and sat on a throne with a silver spoon in her mouth. She's obviously had to do some type of graft over a long period of time. She's obviously had to have this, well, who knows? I know Biden, they say he wanted to be prime minister since he was a kid. Kamala, I'm not sure, but she obviously, like anyone else in this type of a race, wants to succeed and wants to get that spot and be the next president. And then it starts to get very, I was going to say colourful, but that might sound a little bit where I'm going with this, because the thing that's very disappointing is the fact that with all this excitement going on and battle lines being drawn up, and, just when you think you're going to start to hear about policies, about, the political positioning and substance stuff that relates back to democracy, the word that we've been hearing so much about, particularly saving the planet and preventing the last we're ever going to see of democracy if this guy comes in. Some very strange and fictional and Disney World sounding comments have been made. Trump's going to come in and put people in concentration camps. He's I don't know. Anyway, don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. The point I'm making is Kamala Harris has been given this position. She's been given the backing, and the donors seem to be behind her at the moment. And that's just moved on from Biden straight to her. Although I was led to believe that the process is the same as what happened on the Republican side a few weeks back now, where the different candidates were all campaigning, and they had, in the different areas, they had the different votes, and the people had a chance to flex their that one time where you get to put some power in that vote, that choice that you make on the ticket. They have a chance to choose the person they think is going to best represent them in the race for the White House. So the Republicans did that. It was rumored some months back that maybe the same thing that has happened on the left was going to happen on the right, where they were just going to install Trump. But I think that wouldn't have been a good move if it went down that road. Unfortunately, they didn't. They went through the normal process, and he was elected and chosen by the party as the nominee. And then the next thing, it was announced and he chose his VP. So that's all, everyday and ordinary and normal as you expect it to go within this democratic process, which we keep hearing about. And that's what the battle is for. And both sides are fighting to, restore or retain democracy. One side supposedly more so than the other, because from what one side would lead us to believe, if they're not successful, that's the end of democracy. But we've been hearing that for probably the last decade or so. So I find it hard to buy into. So the disappointing thing now is it seems as though they've just installed Kamala as the nominee. They haven't gone through a selection process. They haven't given other people within the party who have maybe slightly different views a chance to compete, campaign. And also the ordinary person, I think the most important part of it, hasn't had the opportunity to cast their vote and get behind the person they think will most best represent them. So now you got Kamala Harris sitting on the throne. All the support's going her way. The media, left leaning, which is probably a large portion of the legacy media, but that's not really a big issue because we're in the era where we have the the citizen journalists and the whole social media and the online method of spreading information. Although sometimes it doesn't seem to be that different from what you get from the legacy media. So the thing is now, she's been installed. The rest of the party haven't had the chance to vote, so that she would have been selected with some kind of mandate, and it would have looked a bit more open and straightforward and above board. Now there's this little bit of a bad taste where I think there's sections of the Democratic Party that aren't happy. I don't know if they're going to go as far as washing their laundry in public. Some of them have, but they feel they've been cheated of the opportunity to have a selection of potential candidates, and then you come to the point where the successful winner is crowned nominee, and you go forward from there, and they pick their VP, and the race begins. So the thing with Kamala that is also disappointing as far as the media is concerned is they seem to be trying to rewrite history. So whatever she did before she entered the White House and what she's done in the last, say, 3.5 coming on 4 years, which some would say is not that much. And there's another thing I'm going to touch on about that. I've got a little theory about that. It's being rewritten. It's almost like she only showed up yesterday. Although we're being led to believe that she's been around building up towards this for however long and has only done great and brilliant and fantastic things, and she's there because she's been chosen, selected, and she's done the legwork. So it's a bit disappointing, the fact that now she's been painted as this person who's been grafting for the for the cause, and fighting for the people and the party. And in truth, from what we've seen, or if we're still allowed to believe what we think we hear, she hasn't done very much in her time as VP. Now, some would say that's the VP's role. They're not supposed to be as busy as the president, though we hear other statements made like, oh, she's always the last person in the room with Biden. So unfortunately for her, that kind of ties her into his L's as well as his W's, because it gives her that association with whatever's happened, however things have turned out during the Biden campaign. She's part of that. She's part of that. And some people would question the way he's had to bow out, which is also something people have expressed displeasure with on both sides, because it was done in a not very usual way. 1 minute, I'm going to be here to the end of this race, and then, yes, I'm going to stick around until probably around January, although I'm going to step aside and let Kamala take over. So obviously, like I said on a previous video, he was probably taken into the back room with the movers and shakers, and the people who fund this campaign probably put a bit of pressure on and said, yeah, it's time to bring in somebody else, some fresher, even younger blood, which we're talking about Kamala here, and the decision probably wasn't really left to him. So that was done in a semi-shady manner, but we've arrived at the spot that we've arrived at. So the fact that they went about it in a slightly suspect way, and now even while the champagne's being cracked and we're going through this honeymoon period on the left side of things, they're looking at polls and saying, oh, there's a margin of error of how many points here, up or down, and she's 2 points away from Trump here, she's a point away ahead of where Biden was, or she's ahead of Trump by a handful of points on this one, pretty much trying to say that if the election was today, she would be sitting in the White House as the first African American. They keep stressing that, and she's a woman, and this is not how I've described her. I'm going to use the words now of the legacy media when they describe her as a woman of mixed heritage. Then she's an African American woman. Then she's the first black woman. Then she's the first Indian VP or a district attorney in a previous working life, and it just keeps moving about. But I understand that's politics, You put the badge with the label on it that's gonna best win your argument at any point in the proceedings. So you got that thing, and what is also very disappointing is the fact that instead of discussing policies, today in particular, the climate has really changed, and a lot of the left politicians and commentators who are coming out behind Kamala are starting to turn this into they're turning it into in plain speaking, they're making it a racial argument. So it's like this woman's going for one of some would say most powerful position and job on the planet, the country that leads the world, and they want people to choose her just because she happens to be a African American female, or the first Indian Jamaican female, or whatever other criteria of ethnic criteria you want to throw in there. And I think it's a shame. It's a missed opportunity to really have her present herself as a strong politician, a strong candidate, a person with years of experience and new ideas and fresh energy to bring into this competition. And it's all been whittled down to the black community should vote for her because she's the first, African American, bloody blah. If you don't vote for her, you're betraying your ethnic group, and all of that stuff is it's disappointing. It's like when Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Yeah, I get it. All's fair in love and war and political battles. I just think it's a shame when at this early stage, when, they're celebrating the win, that she's been backed by the party, a lot of money's coming in, and it's looking kind of, glossy for her. And then already they're just bringing it all down to somebody says something about her abilities or something she's done in the past that wasn't really regarded as a W. And it's racist, or no, it's just so much deflection and smoke and mirrors, and when they could just be discussing political substance, giving people information that they can weigh up in a logical way and come to a reasonable conclusion. And when that day comes and they have the chance to hold a little bit of power, which isn't that frequent for your everyday person, in their hands and make that decision, it can be based on something of more substance than just, she's a black woman, you should vote for her, or it'll be the end of democracy, and if the other side wins, this group of people will all be put into concentration camps, or some real strange things have been literally thrown on the table as facts. And I find it very unusual, very Disney-ish. American politics, similar to ours over here, but on a completely different scale. So there was a kind of a thing brewing, quite heated today, with Roland Martin, where Kilmeade on Fox was having a discussion, and there was an event Kamala was supposed to attend. I think it was a White House event or something like that. Something quite, politically relevant. And she opted to go and meet with some people at a black university. Now, it was described as I think the sentence was said people of color or colored people, and I don't know which way round. One way in this day and age is supposedly not okay, and they sound like they mean the same thing to me. I don't hear the offense myself personally, although this is where the big argument is brewed. And the funniest thing is when you slow down the video to slow down the audio, which has been done on some of the shows where they've clipped the moment where Kilmeade made this statement. It just sounds to me like he said college. It sounded to me like, and there's the accent thing as well. So I probably can't tell, but I don't hear the offense. Now that's been homed in on, focused on, and turned into a big thing at this time where, look, she's winning on some levels and in some arenas. So, you'll think they'll be celebrating that and thinking, okay, yes, get political now. Yes, start flagging up things that she's going to bring to the different communities and to reach these different demographics and groups of people. And yes, flag up the positive. But within a couple of days of her being accepted as the nominee, they're already into the greasy, grimy world of arguing color-based, racial-based politics. And it's just disappointing. You can't have a balanced, reasonable debate because one person or one side says something in what is supposed to be currently an unacceptable way. Then it's, you criticize Kamala because she's a African-American woman, or have you described her? Racism. So how can you have a discussion that has been carried out in a sort of a fair way, a good faith way? That's the problem, I think, with that sort of a thing. And we'll see if they keep it up or if it's kept up in the next few days, or if it hopefully gets back on track and starts to get back on, talking about what she did during her time, how great a distance she's or the people speaking on her behalf are gonna try and create between her and Biden's policies, the ones that aren't celebrated. And then he stated at one stage that she was always the last person in the room, so that makes it pretty difficult for her to completely detach herself from some of the big decisions he made, because then that means she would have had some kind of a influence, or she would have been aware of it. And now when it comes to the quick exit that happened with Biden, which also was strange and unusual, just like not having a vote for who the nominee was going to be and just installing her after the coup. It gets very kind of murky. And you've got this other scenario where they're rewriting history and saying, oh, no, Biden never ever said he's going to pick a black woman VP, when there's clips where he clearly said, and he's straight about that, I'm going to select a black woman VP on my ticket. That's what he believes they need. He didn't use those words, but he said he's going to pick a black woman VP, and that was regarded as perfectly ordinary, nothing, kind of racially biased or this, that, or the other. But the joke is, you flip that round and, if Trump made the statement like that, I'm going to pick a woman of a particular, he would be crushed. All the racial banners will come up. And so it's very bad faith, some of the way the whole thing is going. So, Kilmeade made this statement. Roland Martin and some other commentators are all over him on that. And you're taking up all the oxygen with racist. And I just think it just distracts when, they could be dealing with stuff that probably affects more of the population that whoever wins the election is going to be representing, when you move past all the racial stuff. But they're trying to whittle it down to, once again, the simplistic, easy to shut down the argument, racial thing. And because she's a woman, because she's a dark-skinned woman, and because she has mixed heritage of different, non-Caucasian racial groups, it's like you're supposed to walk around her and speak around her in a very calculated, careful way, because otherwise any real criticism is racial. And what this DEI thing, yes, Biden picked a black woman, but that kind of it does lend steam to the argument that when some say, oh, Kamala Harris, she's a DEI hire. Okay, also the fact that she wasn't very active during her time as VP. Now, I've got a theory about that. I believe she was trying to keep her head down. She didn't want to help Biden. And at the same time, she didn't want to do too much to be too noticeable and associated with the administration. So when the time comes, if she didn't believe he was going to last 8 years, when the time came, she could step up, clean a slate and do her own thing. But I think the flip side of that isn't going to really help her is it just looks like she didn't do much at all. So some might say, well, if you didn't do much at all in all that time when you were in the White House, what have you shown us that you've got that you can pull out the bag and do if you become the next president? So it's it's one of them ones you can just interpret anything in any way you want, and the media are rewriting history. All the negative things that she might have done or been associated with is all being flipped around and rewritten to be Kamala Harris. She's walking on water, has never done a bad thing in her life, and they make it too unbelievable. So the DEI thing, well, that's another big story. That's, you come back to the Trump assassination attempt, and the head of the Secret Service, she was questioned this week. And again, a lot of the questions were focused around the DEI thing. That is a big story. It's probably the acronym of the week, the month, and the year, DEI. So anyway, we'll leave it there for now, and we'll jump back on this in a few hours' time as more information comes in, because every hour is like a day, every day is like a month, and the story's so fast moving, and it's quite healthy, I think. Hopefully this will find its balance. It will, end up being an upright campaign with some subjects of substance that people can get stuck into. Of course, you're not going to be able to avoid the usual to and fro in and, the skullduggery that goes on. All we can do, especially me so far away over here as a simple onlooker over here in the UK, always fascinated by US politics, which I'm sure has its origin in British history, because that's the early origins of some of the structures of what you have over there in the States. And there was a similarity between our politics, but from me viewing over here, it's a very fascinating, fast-moving, dynamic story that's growing at a rapid pace. So be good, be safe, be creative. Corner Speak, we out.